Good evening and welcome to the Township of South Orange Village Planning Board meeting, regular meeting for Wednesday, September 3rd, 2014. Before we get started with reading the roll, I would like to just mention that we are joined this evening as a member of the board by Trustee Sheena Collum, who is serving as the village president's designee as permitted under the municipal land use law. And I understand she must be sworn in prior to her participating, so I'll have counsel take that.
Certainly. Ms. Collins, would you raise your right hand? Sure. Do you swear or affirm to uphold the duties as a member of the South Orange Planning Board to the best of your abilities?
I do.
Thank you.
Okay. All right then, Jetty, will you please call the roll?
Yes, Mr. Colton-Max.
Here.
Mr. Lerner.
Here.
Mr. Miller.
Here.
Reverend Wilson.
Here.
Mr. Allen.
Here.
Mr. Lerman.
Here.
And Ms. Collins.
Here.
Okay. Pursuant to Section 5, Chapter 231, PL 1975, this is to state for the record that adequate notice of this meeting has been provided to the public by posting and maintaining the annual notice of regular meetings on the bulletin board in Village Hall, by mailing the annual notice of regular meetings for 2014 to the South Orange Maplewood News Record and the Star Ledger in December 2013, and by filing said notice in the office of the village clerk. We have a few items on our agenda tonight. I would like to ask the board's indulgence. First of all, I am not going to be able to stay for the full course of the meeting. I wanted to make sure I came here to make sure that there would be enough people to vote on the resolution before the board. I would ask if we could go a little bit out of order and do the discussions first, then vote on the resolution, and then I will hand the meeting over to Michael, and you can proceed with the application for case 237 Clean Land. Is that acceptable to the members of the board?
Yes.
Okay. Sure. Okay, so with that, Sheena, since you're here, even though I know you're not actually a member of the Planning and Zoning Committee, I didn't know if there was anything you could share from the Board of Trustees, or Adam, if you felt that you could, about the Board of Trustees in terms of its work on the planning and zoning at this time.
Absolutely. And I'm glad that this was added to the discussions as a normal standing report from the Board of Trustees. Being an observer from watching it on television or in the audience, it seems like there is a disconnect between the work of the governing body and some of the actions and work of the planning board, where we need to have better coordination. So I fully support and thank the chairman for adding a standing update from the Board of Trustees to make sure that we're all on the same page. Obviously, that's very important, not just to the governing body, but to the planning board. With respect to the Planning and Zoning Committee, and I'll wait for Ms. Gruhl's report on the Irvington Avenue redevelopment update to fill in any gaps there as well. But from Planning and Zoning, one of the big initiatives right now is, as you know, we've authorized the townwide rehabilitation, which was curious because after speaking with a prior planning board member, we realized that there was something already on the books that wasn't governed by the local housing and redevelopment law that already had allowed for townwide rehabilitation up to X amount of dollars. We thought it would be better to go ahead and do a additional study with the help of Ms. Gruhl to make sure that what we had on the books was up to date with our local state statutes and things that our local ordinances can provide for. So that study is currently underway, and we'll be looking for feedback from the planning board on what properties, what types of properties, whether they be just single-family homes or commercial properties, to allow for the abatements or incentives that rehabilitation would bring to the community. That's still pending, but I think we're overall pretty confident that under the existing statutes that the town would meet the requirements for townwide rehabilitation. An additional aspect that was brought to us from the Village Center Alliance in conjunction with our Irvington Avenue Committee was this idea that we have some antiquated codes on our books. For anybody who's actually been through the entire totality of our code, there's a lot in there, and there's certainly a lot of stuff that you hear about as planning board members that are just things that might be a little antiquated or things we can improve upon without requiring our applicants to go through a planning board or a zoning board of adjustment. Things that we can, as the board would say, on behalf of the Board of Trustees, my colleagues and the village president, to make things a little bit more customer service oriented in the village. So we have partnered not just with the Planning and Zoning Committee, members of our governing body, Mr. Lerner, our administrator, Ms. Krul as our village planner, but also property owners and business owners and the various advisory committees to really take a good look at our various codes, whether it be signage, outdoor promotion, and make a full host of recommendations to the Board of Trustees, rather than doing it on an ad hoc basis, look at the totality of what currently exists, and hopefully within the next 6 months or so, we can all see a draft of what that recommendation is. And that's a way to really try and think about our code in a comprehensive fashion and really make doing business in South Orange a little bit easier for our businesses, property owners, and people who interact with our governing body and our staff on a day-to-day basis. So I think those are things that we can loop in the planning board and ask for any additional recommendations you might have, but that's kind of the two big items under planning and zoning where your feedback would be critical to making sure that we do it right.
Okay. Thank you, Trustee Collins. Are there any questions from the members of the board? Okay, Adam, was there anything you thought might be? Okay. Very good. Thank you for that. Moving on to the second discussion item, the report from the board planner. I know you did send out a memo by email earlier today. I don't know if everybody's had a chance to read it, but perhaps you might just, summarize briefly.
Picking up what Trustee Collins said, we have completed the rehabilitation study, the township-wide rehab study, and the conclusion is that it does meet the criteria. One of the criteria is the majority of the housing stock has to be over 50 years old and can be, and that there can be some program for updating or rehabbing, whatever that group may be. We relied, as you will see, because you will be receiving a copy of it, we relied on certain tax assessment data. Your tax assessment or Mod 4 data is very up to date and has certain year-built information, as well as the last census, the 2010 census, which also has age of housing stock. So it's an objective, very objective assessment as to the rehabilitation standard, and you'll see that. And so that has been complete. The redevelopment studies, as we stated, we have completed gathering tax assessment data by parcel or lot. We asked for and received code violation data by lot just within the past several days, and we're evaluating that information. As part of the study, we have to go out and we have to look at each particular lot, take photos, and evaluate the sites as it relates to the redevelopment criteria. We have also reviewed DEP known contaminated sites lists, and just as, which is on the village's website, there are 2 community meetings that have been scheduled for next week, which was a commitment as to looping in the public as to the process and the Irvington Avenue revitalization efforts. Okay. So that is where we are at this point. We're certainly on track. We expect either to probably have a draft within a month, but no later than 2 months for the board to have.
Okay. Thank you, Susan. Are there any questions from the members of the board? Michael?
Can you tell us when the community meetings are scheduled?
Certainly. There was, and I meant to bring the flyer because there is a flyer online. There is one on Wednesday morning at 8:30.
At Congregation Bethel.
Thank you, Sheena.
No problem.
And then there is one on Thursday evening at 7:30 in the
Same
same
location.
location.
And that's next week.
Next
Yes.
week. Wednesday morning,
So that'd be the
for those that get up really early and want to, and don't have anything to do at 8:30 in the morning, and then ones that are late sleepers and like the evening. So it's good because you get a different group based upon those two times.
Okay. Other questions from members of the board? I just have one question relating to the rehab study. Can you just elaborate on, I understand with an area in need of redevelopment study that it would come back to this board to offer its opinion. For a rehab study, what happens?
Now, that's a really good question. That does not require the extent of, I will say, process, because there is no, again, there are two differences, major differences. There is no opportunity statutorily, legally, to use eminent domain under rehab, and you cannot use long-term tax abatement. You can obviously use short-term. There is no public hearing notice, as there would be in a redevelopment study scenario. It does have to be, it is adopted by resolution, which is the same as what ultimately happens with a redevelopment study. But this planning board needs to see it and comment on it, but you don't have to hold a public hearing. It is not required.
And whether a public hearing is required or not, do we have to vote on whether to recommend this to the Board of Trustees, or do we not take any formal action?
Ideally, that would be a good idea.
But it's not required
It
under the
is
law.
not required
Okay.
per se.
But it is required for an area in need of redevelopment.
Oh, it is definitely
Yeah.
required for that.
I assume we will, but I just want to clarify what the difference was.
Yes, and to the extent that there are comments from the board on it, again, this is a much more objective, you either have data and housing stock that's over 50 years old or not. There's a little bit more qualitative assessment under a redevelopment study. So, but in terms of maybe some of the issues as to whether it should be focused on and targeted on certain housing neighborhoods or certain types of housing, multifamily, single-family, whatever it may be, that would be something that would be helpful for input.
Okay, and the area in need of rehab study, we will get between this meeting and the next, you expect?
You will get it, yes, you will get it either by the end of the week or early next week. So you will have a long time to be able to review it. It is rather direct, straightforward.
And the redevelopment studies are still a few months away?
They're still at least a month away,
Okay.
if not two. But
Okay.
that's the long term, we were talking maybe
Right.
2 months out.
Okay. Right, any other, yes?
Squirrel, one quick question. If we're talking about a townwide rehabilitation ordinance, so that applies to commercial as well as individual homeowners?
It does.
So by way of an example, if an individual homeowner wants to rehabilitate his house, he can apply for short-term tax abatement to help or assist with that renovation or rehabilitation?
Yes, oftentimes it's considered to be a carrot as to renovating and upgrading the housing stock, and that's kind of what the legislative purpose was. But again, you raise a good question. As much as one of the criteria is housing stock being a certain age, it does not limit the only residential to be within the overall rehab area. So it does and will include commercial as well, which is another benefit
Yeah,
as such.
I understood it to basically include commercial property. What was, I guess, what I wanted clarification was for individual homeowners as well, has this additional incentive, if you will, to renovate their homes, to get them up to whether it be code or any level of improvement that better than what exists today.
You're correct.
Who, the individual homeowners, in order, by way of process, do they come before this body, or what body do they come to in order to apply for that short-term tax abatement for their rehabilitation plans?
It depends ultimately how the Board of Trustees structures the program as to exactly who can tap in, and oftentimes it is an administrative type of program.
Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, if I might
Yeah.
add to that, previously what existed, what we found within the ordinance itself was, once the Board of Trustees made a determination, I'm pretty sure that was likely with input from the Planning Board, there was an ordinance that was actually written into our code that specified who was eligible to what amount the tax abatement could be. I believe, and I'm not certain, I could look it up, it was $25,000 under the prior statutes, which predate all the members of the governing body right now, which was an incentive from the state of New Jersey. So as I mentioned earlier, we wanted to upgrade or update to kind of the local standards and whether or not that should be capped. And one of the items I'd be bringing to the full Board of Trustees was a discussion on whether or not it would be designated for certain commercial districts within South Orange, or if we wanted to extend it to single-family homeowners, similar to what Mr. Lerman had just stated. I was unaware of it until speaking with Ellen, understanding how it was put into practice. But that's something that certainly we would welcome some feedback on, because historically, you see the tax abatements or the financial incentives within designated districts. Primarily the central business district, you've seen a lot of it. So the question is whether or not we want to keep it on commercial properties, or if it's some type of incentive that we wanted to extend to single-family homeowners, and whether that would be within a certain cap of improvements on your home, or whether the cap is a little bit larger, or whether there's no cap on the improvements. And Mr. Chairman, if we can have some discussion or some preliminary feedback on that. I was going to add it to our agenda for our conference agenda on Monday's board meeting, but my perspective going into it was improvements are improvements. I think overall it helps the neighborhood, it helps the community. What you're not receiving in tax revenue immediately, you get in permits that still need to be pulled, and ultimately, a 5-year tax abatement will bring those improvements online. And so we haven't had a full discussion as a governing body about this, but this is something that certainly the planning board would probably have some good insight into.
I appreciate that. I think it would be useful, and I don't know, Susan, perhaps you can provide this, to provide some perspective among what other communities have done in this regard. I mean, perhaps the board is already getting that, but if when we discuss that perhaps at the October meeting, if that kind of information could be provided prior to or at the meeting, I think I would find that information useful. Yes,
And
Danny.
I just want to clarify, the decision about how widespread the rehabilitation is that decision entirely up to the Board of Trustees?
Yes, but, I'm sorry, but, well, the study is for the entire
I grant the study. The
How
decision
it's
on how it's
implemented
implemented
is-
is only up to the Board of Trustees.
Yes, it is.
And are there any guidelines for that according to state regulation?
No. I mean, there's a state statute on short-term pilots. For example, if it's a 5-year, it's phased in, 20, 40, 60, 80 back in. There's certain of those, but in terms of the extent and how you want to structure the program as such, no, that's the Board of Trustees.
So theoretically, the Board of Trustees could suggest or decide that $15,000 of tax abatement over a 5-year period was available to every household in the city of South Orange, and assuming they had done their calculations on the budget and the budget implications of that, they would be completely within their rights to do that as an incentive to upgrade South Orange entirely.
That's correct. And ultimately get more taxes from that because it phases out after 5 years.
Understood.
And up front, you get the building permit fees for people to actually do the work.
It's a negligible exchange.
I don't think so. I think our permit fees are pretty, permit fees are pretty healthy in this town. Compared against the tax abatement that you might be offering, it might just be a trade-off or a small incentive for people to make improvements, with the overall goal being something in 5 years that you don't have today. Again, I think, speaking on behalf of the Board of Trustees, both Alex and Trustee Rosner, who aren't here, what we're trying to explore are things that are more incentive-based and with a carrot and not with a hammer, for whether it be commercial property owners or single-family homeowners. How do we encourage those type of investments in our town right now?
I would also just add that, I would think that, I don't know from our level, but maybe from the Board of Trustees level, that some kind of financial analysis be done, just in case 1,000 homeowners decide to come in the same day and try to get a short-term tax abatement, what that implication is for our rateable base. Just, on the off chance that happens. It could, but it may not either. It may only be either available or desired by very few people. But I think you have to plan for a more widespread availability.
I think that also depends on what the cap is set at. As I had previously mentioned, we have something within our code, I believe it's Chapter 41. Mr. Renda, do you know specifically the area in our code that specifies the short-term tax abatements for homeowners right now?
No, I don't. I'm not familiar with
It's
that.
either Chapter 41 or Chapter 441, one or the other, that already allows these to exist up to 25,000. And it hasn't really, I don't know if it's a lack of marketing. I was surprised to know it was there, because here I was thinking, here we can attempt to offer incentives, and then learning, it's on our books, we're already offering those incentives up to this amount. And from what I understand, whether, again, it was the lack of marketing, we haven't had people knocking down the door over a $25,000, especially on top of, whatever the average assessed home value is, $500,000 or so in South Orange, that it was small enough that it really didn't cause an uproar of like, yeah, we're all going to start improvements right now. But the question is, under what Ms. Gruhl is doing and the townwide rehabilitation, if we want to lift that cap and overall put a $50,000 cap, lower the cap, or say the sky's the limit, improvements are improvements, building permits are building permits, in 5 years, welcome back to paying full taxes. So that's something that I'm sure the board can deliberate on further, that we can circulate some of the information on that, and that once you see the results of rehab, again, watching the meetings previously, it's not, your decision as a planning board may not be binding to the Board of Trustees, but obviously we'll welcome whatever feedback that this statutory board has to offer us, and we'd welcome working together on kind of setting the parameters of what would be best. And to your point, Mr. Lerman, I'll certainly touch base with our staff and see if we can get those numbers.
Just as a point of reference.
You got it.
Thanks.
Okay. Any other questions or comments, discussion? Okay.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I'm back again. Sorry, you'll learn very quickly, and I give very lengthy updates to the Board of Trustees. To the update on the redevelopment studies, there was one in particular thing that I wanted the planning board to be aware of, because I was present at a last meeting, and there were some concerns, but as two members of the governing body already up here, I felt a little hesitant about speaking with two other people already present, but as the designee, I just wanted to share that the results of the things that we brought to the planning board were a compilation of what the Board of Trustees did in the fall with the market research at Seton Hall University. So we did significant outreach to neighborhoods, stakeholders, business owners, property owners, to the tune of 700 respondents, focus groups. I believe we were in the news continuously, local press, giving updates on what these surveys had yielded to the Board of Trustees. From those survey results, working with professionals at Seton Hall and student groups, and what we thought was significant outreach to the community, that's where we formed an Irvington Avenue Corridor Advisory Committee. That's where we worked with them, members of our existing development committee, to compile recommendations, form various working groups, and then ultimately we moved in the direction of wanting a redevelopment study. What was expressed here at the last meeting, which was some concern for me, and it's something that Mr. Dwyer talked about probably about 5 years ago, is the separation of our roles, both the governing body and the planning board as a statutory body, is that I think it would be inappropriate for governing body members and advisory committees to us to then be also working with the planning board. We saw our role as taking the advice, feedback from the community, our advisory committees, formulating kind of the map and what direction we'd be moving in. And at that point, we turn over our recommendations to the planning board, almost in a quote-unquote administrative role of the next steps. And so I think we were all very hesitant to start trying to commingle our roles because it is, I don't want to say controversial, but there's a lot of detail and there's a lot of professionalism that we expect, not just from our full-time professionals, but the members of this governing body, that we try and separate those and make sure that our roles are very specific throughout a process like this, that the village went through with the central business district. So I just wanted to clarify that from our end, we were giving updates regularly. We were trying to get the consent and advice from our direct advisory committees. And I apologize profusely that at least updates, even if not discussion, weren't happening at the planning board level, and know that that won't continue in the future, that we are absolutely committed to making sure that we're at least in tandem with understanding, if not collaborating and discussing, that we are just keeping you informed of where we are and where you are. And to the extent that there was a commitment made from the governing body to do extensive outreach in advance of the statutorily required outreach, that is being done. Each of the property owners have received the resolutions. They've been welcome to the forums that we're having next week. They've received an FAQ on a lot of the questions that were asked of this governing body and brought up by planning board members. So I think we're in a good place with that, and moving forward, we're going to do a much better job.
Good. Okay. Thank you. Any other questions, comments? Okay. Again, Susan, thank you very much for the report, both written and verbal. And we're going to move back to the agenda. The next item on the agenda, approval of resolution, case number 238, South Orange Rescue Squad, block 1906, lot 2, 62 Sloan Street, minor site plan and C variance. The applicant is seeking to construct a new 2-story South Orange Rescue Squad facility on an existing park lot with rescue vehicle parking. The resolution was circulated earlier today. There was a later version with comments from the applicant's attorney. And so a resolution is now available for this board to vote on. Would you please, well, before we, I need, those people who are eligible to vote are those members who were present at the last meeting and voted in favor of the resolution at that time. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So, Jettie, based on that, can you just indicate which members of this board here tonight are eligible to vote? Or introduce a resolution?
Yourself, Mr. Lerner, and Mr. Lerman.
Okay. So there are 3 of us who are available to vote. And just to be clear, since even though it's not a majority of the planning board, it's a majority of those who were present at the meeting. Therefore, this is an eligible number of people to vote.
It is. How many people were, there were only 3 people present at the meeting?
There were 5 people present at the meeting.
Okay.
Mr. Miller voted against the resolution, and I believe there was one person who is not here tonight. Lillian
What's her last name?
Harris.
Okay.
So, so do either one of you want to introduce the resolution?
Well, with that noise, I suppose I can introduce this resolution, and is there a way of expressing it?
Just saying you're introducing the resolution.
I'm introducing the resolution as submitted.
Okay.
Councilman, which gentleman is that?
Adam, you want to perhaps consider seconding the resolution?
Yes, I second.
Okay. Jettie, you want to call the roll?
Yes. Okay. Mr. Colton-Max?
Yes.
Mr. Lerner,
Yes.
and Mr. Lerman.
Yes.
Whose microphone are you not picking up? Okay. All right. So, so it's passed unanimously. Thank you all very much for your participation in that. I must apologize, as I indicated to my fellow board members earlier. I have to leave now. I've got childcare duty. So I thank you very much for indulging me. I look forward to seeing you next month, and now I'm going to turn the meeting over to Michael. No, that's yours.
We now have before us an application to be heard, Clean Land.
Good evening, members of the board. I'm Gary Cadu. I represent Clean Land LLC.
I'm sorry, can you, your name again?
Gary Cadu.
Spell the last name for me, please.
Sorry, I can't hear it.
Spell your last name, please.
Haydu.
Thank you.
Clean Land is an LLC entity under the laws of the state of New Jersey. It
Sir?
trades under the
Sir?
name of 241.
Can you speak into the microphone? They can't hear you up there.
Clean Land LLC trades.
Is that okay back there?
Trades as 241. I have with me this evening Jim Saul. He is a project manager for the development of this property. The property in question is located at 125 South Orange Avenue. It's block 1007, lot 22, and it's located in the CBD development zone. And the proposal before you that's been submitted, and the plan before you that's been submitted, is really for the recreation of the front facade of that building. There is no other development that's being applied for or is being done to the property other than the front facade. I have with me this evening two pictures that you should have in your individual packets that are particularly meaningful, and I'd like to have them marked A1 and A2. I would suggest that A1 shows the 2-for-1 sign very prominent on the left-hand side of that picture, and you'll also see the door entrance marked as 125. And A2 would be the picture which shows the front facade of the Japanese restaurant. And I think that those two pictures will help with the testimony that Mr. Saul intends on offering. Now, Mr. Saul, I'm going to direct your attention for a
We
moment
need
to...
to swear the witness.
Oh, sure.
Mr. Saul, would you spell your name for me, please? Spell your name for me, please.
James, last name Gal, G-H-M-U-L-L. Just one marking?
Mr. Saul, do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give here tonight will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
And Mr. Saul, for a moment, I'm going to direct your attention to photograph A2, which is a depiction of the front facade of the Japanese restaurant.
Yes, sir, that would be the store next to our...
Sir, I hate interrupting you, but you've got to speak into the microphone.
Is it working?
Closer?
This is being videotaped and it's being broadcast.
Okay.
So while we may be able to hear you, parties on the other end have to be able to hear you too.
Is it working now?
That's good.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes, sir, I believe that's the store to the left of us, next door, under the same building.
Now, does this picture depict substantively what it is that you're looking to do at your store?
It'll be very, very similar to it. It'll be an aluminum frame, same color, we're going to match it all the way. I think we're in a slightly same building with the slope, so it'll go exactly continuation of the building to the left of us, the Japanese restaurant. Also, there's a store, the bagel store, to the right of us, which has a continuation of that. It's all under the same building. So we're the only one, perhaps because it's vacant, with the old indentation and a little display to the little left and right and the middle indentation. And we're going to go consistent with the store to the left and to the right, matching all the colors and everything.
So the idea of coloring choices and the like was based on your desire to match the remainder of the building?
That is correct, sir.
And both the unit to your right and the unit to your left, those are all within one actual building?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And the material that's been used for the front facade and that you're proposing to use on your facade, that's aluminum encased windows?
That is aluminum panel, yes, sir.
Okay. And that's sealed aluminum so that it's got a clear finish on it, is that right?
That is correct, sir.
Okay. And the panels at the bottom, or what we would refer to in a construction world as being the knee wall, those are also aluminum panels, are they not?
Yes, they are.
And your proposal is that they be colored similarly to the panels that exist in the store to your right and in the store to your left, and particularly as shown on photograph A2?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, you understand that the glazed portion of the window has to be 70% clear in accordance and to meet the standards and requirements of the village. Do you understand that?
Yes, sir, I do.
Which basically means that you can't load it with signs that block the clear visibility into and out of your store.
I do understand, yes.
And you have a separate proposal and a separate application that you're going to be making for a sign permit, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And that's going to be made directly to the municipality?
Yes, sir.
And that sign, it's anticipated that it's going to be located in a similar manner to the signs that are, again, on the store to the left and the store to the right?
Absolutely.
And it'll be of similar construction and design?
Absolutely.
Okay. Now, the windows and trim element, as I previously stated, are going to be of aluminum, but they're going to be of a coated aluminum so that it's a clear finish.
Yes, sir.
Is that correct?
That is correct.
Now, Ms. Gruhl, who is the professional planner for the municipality, has issued a memorandum concerning this matter, which I showed you earlier this evening, and she has asked that we bring up the issue of parking. So I'm going to raise the issue, despite the fact that we already have a certificate of occupancy for the property, and there is no actual parking lot associated with this building structure, is there?
Not for customers, no.
No. And your store has 2 available slots behind it,
Behind the building,
which could be used for
employee parking.
employee parking?
Mhm.
And you intend to use it for that purpose?
Correct.
And it's your expectation that customer parking would be on the street parking?
That'll be correct,
Would be
sir.
available and rotating?
Yes, sir.
And the normal time frame that a typical customer would spend in your store, would that be a matter of minutes?
2 or 3 minutes
Okay.
in general?
They're generally coming in to drop something off, or they're coming in to pick something up and to pay their tab?
That'll be correct.
So it's a very quick turnaround process?
It would be quick.
Okay. And how many employees do you intend on having on site at a given time?
1 or 2 at times, perhaps?
2 at the most?
2 at the most.
Okay. That's all the questions that I have for this.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman. Counsel, would you have the witness authenticate the photographs, please?
Sure. I'm going to show you what's been identified, or what we've marked as identification A1. That's depicting what?
Well, this is as it is. It's the old-fashioned entrance with a 1/3 to the left, 1/3 to the right, with a little showcase, and with a little middle indentation, probably about 3-4 feet, and then the door in the middle.
But it shows the store that you are currently leasing, is that right?
That is as it is right now.
And
Does
the
it
photo-
does it adequately represent the current conditions?
I'm
Does it
sorry.
properly represent the current conditions?
I can't.
Does it
Does-
show the current condition of the property as it presently exists?
Yes, other than the window probably got a little cleaner.
Okay. Thank you.
2-for-1. A1.
And the photograph which I have marked A2, that's a photograph of what?
That'll be the store to our left, be a Japanese restaurant.
Okay. And does that photograph accurately depict the condition of the property at the present time?
I think so.
Okay.
Thank you.
And these photographs were both recently taken?
They are recent, yes, very recent.
Counselor, any other questions?
That's it, thank you.
Before I open it up to the board, are there any members of the public that wish to ask questions of this witness? Consider public comment closed for the moment. Board members, any comments, questions?
Is this already an existing business, is that correct? Is this business already a going business?
Yes,
The business is open?
Right.
Under a CO, yes?
Okay, and there's no proposed changes to the interior at this point? Just the
No.
the front? Okay, thank you.
Any questions from our professionals?
Just to clarify, the proposed changes that you're showing on the plan is relocating the door and just pulling the front facade that's currently recessed in out flush with the street, similar to what's adjacent to the building to the left. Is that correct?
The question that was asked as the proposal, as we've submitted it, is talking about making your front facade similar to the front facade of the stores to your left and to your right, particularly the Japanese restaurant as shown on A2.
yes, it's just a facade change. It's an old-fashioned window. I think it serves two purposes. It keeps in line with the building has 4 stores, and they already changed that, and we're in the middle. We're the old one with the chipped wood. It doesn't look good, and as far as we're concerned, we're a service store. We don't need to display anything, so we could use that little extra space, and it'll be a whole lot cleaner, and that's why we're applying for the facade change. That's all we're doing, just changing the front window, literally.
Well, we're moving the door to the side as opposed to having it centered.
Yes.
And according to the plan, the door is going to be flush with the street or recessed, like the other doors?
Recessed.
Okay, that's all.
Any other questions? Any other questions for council or? Thank you.
Thank you.
Any discussion, board members?
Again, give the public the
Yeah,
opportunity to
I will.
comment.
Any questions, board members?
No, I think it's fairly straightforward. I think this is a pretty simple, straightforward application.
Exactly.
I believe that I think they've met the burdens and the criteria pretty clearly.
Any comments from the general public? I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second?
You have to define the motion.
Excuse me?
You have to define the
You have to
motion.
define your motion.
They wanted to define the second.
I so move to accept the preliminary and, I guess, the final site plan. So,
For Clean Land.
yes, for Clean Land LLC, case number 237.
Second.
Is that good enough, council?
Thank
To
you,
approve the
Counsel.
application, yes.
Jettie, can you call the roll?
Mr. Lerman,
Yes.
Mr. Allen,
Yes.
Reverend Wilson,
Yes.
Mr. Lerner,
Yes.
and Mr. Miller,
Yes.
and Ms. Collins.
Yes.
We wish you the best of luck.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
on your new
Thank you.
venture.
Thank you.
I guess the other case on here, Luther P. Turner and Hazel Turner, is still pending Historic Commission. Do we have any update on that at all?
I have no information.
You very likely will be getting this case very soon. The zoning board did act
Okay.
on it. and the resolution has not been memorialized, or, so until that's memorialized, it can't be heard by this body. But it's soon. It's
But
coming.
it's soon. It's coming. Okay, so it's Christmas.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Just one last item on the agenda. I want to bring everybody up to date on the master plan, the RFP. We should, the review is in progress now. I wish Ms. Harris was here tonight to bring us up to date, but my two partners in this are not here tonight. They're formulating it, and it should be ready to be heard by October's meeting, and we will try and get it out to the board certainly before that meeting. With that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor? Aye?
Aye.
Terrific. Did great.
That's the quickest meeting I think
Nice
we've...
job.